For the holidays, Home Alone.
Kevin!
But just like Kevin McAllister, in the very house where they filmed the iconic Christmas classic.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
Every holiday season, Home Alone finds its way back onto our screens. It's one of the most loved films of the 90s, and Macaulay Culkin's performance made it unforgettable. But once you look a little closer, you realize there's more going on beneath the holiday chaos than meets the eye. And once you see it, you might not be able to unsee it. Is the movie really as simple as we remember? And what hidden details change the way we see this Macaulay Culkin classic today? Join us as we take a closer look at what's really going on beneath the holiday chaos. The Home Alone mistakes you'll never unsee again. With the holidays rolling around again, the Home Alone franchise is back in heavy rotation. And, as always, fans are rewatching with fresh eyes. While the series now has 6 films to its name, let's be honest, most people only count the first 2. The original Home Alone from 1990 and Home Alone 2, Lost in New York from 1992, are the ones that truly stuck. They turned Macaulay Culkin into a household name and made Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern's Harry and Marv some of the most unlucky burglars in movie history. But recently, a sharp-eyed TikTok fan decided to look a little closer, and what they found sent other fans spiraling. According to the video, the original movie contains a handful of small but noticeable mistakes. One moment showed a background character clearly mouthing a line, only for another character to say it aloud. In another scene, a sled slides into view, with wheels visible beneath it, completely breaking the illusion. Some viewers went beyond visual slip-ups and started poking holes in the storyline itself. One longtime fan noticed an age inconsistency that has bothered them for years. Kevin is 8 years old in the first film and 10 in the second, yet characters constantly refer to him as having been left home, alone, last year. The timeline doesn't quite add up, and once you realize it, it sticks out like a sore thumb. But those aren't the most shocking moments. Beyond the inconsistent timeline and awkward lip-syncing, there's something even more startling waiting to be uncovered. That wasn't actually Macaulay Culkin. One of the funniest things about Home Alone is how fearless Kevin McAllister seems. He flies down staircases, jumps from dangerous heights, zip lines like a pro, and somehow survives it all without a scratch. As kids, we bought into it completely. But behind the scenes, there was a little movie magic at work because Macaulay Culkin wasn't doing those stunts himself. As daring as Kevin's antics looked on screen, many of them were far too risky for a child actor to attempt. Scenes like sledding down the McAllister staircase straight into a pile of snow, zipping from the treehouse, or climbing across rooftops weren't exactly playground safe. Even in the early 1990s, the production team knew better than to put an 8-year-old in harm's way. So whenever things got dangerous, Kevin stepped aside and a grown man stepped in. His stunt double was a seasoned professional named Larry Nicholas, a veteran stunt performer whose job was to perform high-risk moves that made Kevin's traps and escapes look so convincing. Clever camera angles and smart framing did the rest, making it nearly impossible to tell when Culkin had been swapped out. Once you know this detail, it's hard not to smile during rewatch sessions. That tiny kid rocketing down the stairs? Not actually a kid. The fearless leap off the roof? Definitely not Kevin, but that doesn't take away from the magic. Kevin may have looked like a one-kid action hero, but behind the scenes, it took a full-grown stunt expert to help pull off some of the movie's most unforgettable moments. While a stunt double handling Kevin's physical scenes wasn't exactly shocking, it's the subtle, overlooked details in the film that deserve a closer look. The fake movie that became a holiday classic. If you've seen Home Alone, you probably remember the gritty black-and-white gangster movie Kevin uses to scare off the wet bandits. It gives us one of the most quoted lines in the entire film. "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal."
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
It feels so real that many fans assumed it was an old movie dug up from the archives. But here's the truth. Angels with Filthy Souls was never a real film. The movie only exists inside Home Alone, It was created specifically for the story and shot just for the film. There was no original release and no forgotten classics hiding in Hollywood history. The entire clip was written, filmed, and produced as a clever piece of world-building to make Kevin's trick believable. In the movie, Kevin plays the scene at full volume to scare Marv during one of the break-ins. The plan works perfectly. Marv panics, dives behind the bins, and suddenly Kevin looks far more dangerous than an 8-year-old home alone. The fake movie sells the moment so well that most viewers never question it. The actor playing the tough-talking gangster Johnny was Chicago-based actor Ralph Foodie. He wasn't a random extra either. Foodie appeared in other films like The Blues Brothers and Curly Sue, which helped give the fake movie a convincing, old-school feel. His delivery, combined with the grainy black-and-white style, made the scene feel authentic enough to fool millions. What's even more impressive is how seamlessly the fake film fits into the story. It doesn't feel like a joke or a parody. It feels like something Kevin genuinely stumbled across while flipping through channels. So next time you hear that famous line, remember, it didn't come from a forgotten classic. It came from a movie made just to make Home Alone work, and somehow it became a Christmas legend all on its own. Now move on to the next fact about this holiday classics that would leave you shocked. The potato flake secret of Home Alone. One of the most iconic visuals in Home Alone is the snow. It blankets the McAllister neighborhood, sets the holiday mood, and makes Kevin's lonely adventure feel unmistakably like Christmas. But here's the twist. A lot of that snow wasn't snow at all. When filming began, the weather didn't cooperate. Chicago wasn't delivering the picture-perfect snowfall the movie needed, so the crew had to improvise. Their solution was surprisingly low-tech: potato flakes. There's a moment in the film when Kate McAllister, played by Catherine O'Hara, finally arrives back home as snow gently falls around her. It looks magical on screen. Behind the scenes, though, it was a pair of large fans and 2 crew members tossing bags of potato flakes directly into the airflow. Neighbors Herb and Joni White, who lived across the street from the real Home Alone house, later talked about watching the scene being filmed. Herb explained that the flakes were poured into the fans just out of frame, creating the illusion of falling snow. On camera, it worked beautifully. Off camera, not so much.
And being aware of the scenes that came before and after, the film took on its own flow.
According to Herb, the potato flakes started to smell after sitting around for a while. What looked like a cozy winter wonderland quickly became less pleasant for the people standing nearby. Still, for the sake of the shot, the crew pushed through. Movie magic doesn't always smell great. Thankfully, nature eventually stepped in. Later during production, a real blizzard hit the area, covering the street in actual snow. From that point on, the crew no longer needed their potato-based workaround. The neighborhood stayed naturally snowy, giving the film its authentic winter look. It's one of those behind-the-scenes details that makes Home Alone even more charming. The snow may not have been real at first, but the creativity was. And sometimes, a bag of potato flakes is all it takes to make Christmas movie history. Now, let's talk about the Screaming Kevin moment and how that scenario came to be. The Screaming Kevin moment was a total accident. One of the most iconic images from Home Alone, Kevin McAllister clutching his face and screaming in horror, wasn't supposed to happen. That freeze frame of pure panic has become synonymous with the film itself, but it was actually an improvised moment on set. Macaulay Culkin had been directed to remove his hands from his cheeks before letting out a scream, but as luck would have it, he didn't follow the instructions exactly. In the middle of applying aftershave, he let out a genuine, startled shriek while still holding his face. The reaction was so perfect and so funny that the crew couldn't stop laughing. Instead of reshooting the scene, director Chris Columbus decided to leave it in the final cut. That spontaneous mistake became one of the most memorable moments in holiday movie history, instantly recognizable and endlessly parodied in pop culture. Kevin is usually shown as this super smart kid who always has a plan, but you might be surprised to find out that a tennis ball represented Kevin at times. Sounds silly, right? Let's get into it. The tennis ball trick in Home Alone. One of the reasons Home Alone still works so well is the chemistry between its cast.
Picture like Home Alone, still makes an audience laugh as hard as it did when it was first released.
Especially Catherine O'Hara and young Macaulay Culkin. Her frantic, emotional performance as Kevin's mom feels real in every scene. But here's a behind-the-scenes detail that might surprise you. Sometimes Macaulay wasn't even there. Because of child labor laws, young actors weren't allowed to work past 10 at night. And since movie sets often run late, the production had to get creative. When Macaulay had to leave for the day, filming didn't stop. Instead, Catherine O'Hara would continue acting her scenes opposite a tennis ball. Yes, a tennis ball. The crew would hang or hold a tennis ball at roughly Macaulay's height so Catherine could keep her eye line consistent. That way, when the footage was edited together later, it would still look like she was speaking directly to Kevin. In some wider shots, director Chris Columbus would even read Kevin's lines from off-camera to help maintain the rhythm of the scene. But for close-ups, the tennis ball did most of the work. It sounds strange, but this kind of workaround is actually pretty common in filmmaking, especially when children are involved. The priority is always safety and legality, even if it means asking an actor to pour emotion into a conversation with a fuzzy green stand-in. What makes this detail impressive is how seamless it feels on screen. You'd never guess that some of Catherine O'Hara's most heartfelt moments were performed without her co-star present. Her reactions, timing, and emotional intensity still land perfectly. So the next time you rewatch Home Alone, remember this: behind some of those classic scenes wasn't just movie magic, but a tennis ball doing an unexpectedly important job. But that's not all the details you should keep in mind. Let's reveal another shocker. Buzz's girlfriend was never a girlfriend at all. One of the funniest throwaway moments in Home Alone is when Kevin picks up a framed photo of his brother, Buzz's girlfriend, and delivers the brutal line, "Buzz, your girlfriend? Woof."
Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof.
It's savage, and it perfectly captures Kevin's sarcasm. But here's the part most fans never knew. Buzz's girlfriend isn't actually a girl. The photo used in that scene was never meant to show a real teenage girl. Director Chris Columbus thought it would be unfair, and honestly kind of cruel, to mock a real young girl's appearance for a laugh. So instead of casting someone and turning them into the butt of the joke, the production team came up with a smarter solution. They used a boy. The awkward, wide-eyed girlfriend in the photo is actually the son of the film's art director. The image was styled just enough to look believable on screen while avoiding the risk of humiliating an actual girl. That way, the joke could land without anyone getting hurt in real life. It's one of those clever behind-the-scenes decisions you'd never notice unless someone pointed it out. The moment still works, the laugh still hits, and no one watching the movie is any the wiser. This little detail also says a lot about how Home Alone was made. Even while pushing comedy and chaos, the filmmakers were careful about where they drew the line. They wanted the humor to feel sharp, not mean-spirited. That's not all the shocking facts that we'll be revealing today. Stay with us as we uncover the next. Kevin's dinner plate continuity. Goof in Home Alone. Even the most carefully crafted films have little slip-ups, and Home Alone is no exception. One funny continuity error happened during a scene before one of Harry and Marv's attempted break-ins. Kevin is shown sitting down for his dinner, macaroni and cheese, just before 9 in the evening. The camera lingers on the plate, showing his simple, kid-friendly meal. It's a classic, cozy moment before the chaos begins. But later, right before Harry ends up buried under a mountain of feathers, the camera pans back to Kevin's plate. This time, something's off. The macaroni and cheese has mysteriously been replaced by a plate divided into 3 sections, each containing different foods. It's a subtle detail that most viewers probably wouldn't notice on a first watch, but for eagle-eyed fans or those rewatching for trivia, it's impossible to miss. The switch is small, but amusing. The next fact we're about to unveil also resonates around food. How? We're about to find out. Kevin's pizza mystery in Home Alone. Here's a fun little blunder that fans have noticed in Home Alone. Kevin somehow manages to get a pizza delivered to the house. Earlier in the film, it's made very clear that the family's phones are down.
A couple days to repair the phone lines.
The phone lines are a mess.
Yeah.
Kevin can't call anyone. which adds to the sense of isolation and makes his solo adventure feel all the more intense. But then, out of nowhere, a pizza shows up at the McAllister home. There's no explanation about whether the phones were magically fixed, and Kevin doesn't seem to have used any alternative method to place the order. It's a small detail, but it sticks out when you're paying attention. Next time you watch, keep an eye on how Kevin's pizza magically appears. Let's move on to the next oversight. This time, it's a timeline blunder. The McAllisters' impossible flight in Home Alone. Here's a little timeline blunder that makes eagle-eyed fans scratch their heads. When the McAllisters take off from Chicago, it's clearly morning. Their destination? Paris. A long haul that usually takes 7 to 8 hours. On top of that, there's a 7-hour time difference to consider. Do the math, and the family should be landing in the French capital in the early hours of the morning, around 1 or 2 a.m. at best. But when the plane touches down in Paris, it's broad daylight. The sun is shining, streets are busy, and everything looks like a normal morning arrival. It's a classic movie shortcut. Filmmakers wanted the city to look lively and cinematic, so realism had to take a back seat. While it's a continuity error that doesn't ruin the story, it's fun trivia for those who like to nitpick the details. Kevin's parents may have taken the fastest flight in history, but the timeline still doesn't add up. That said, let's imagine Kevin's brain was moving just as fast as that flight, and here's how. Kevin's lucky guess in Home Alone. One of the cleverest and slightly questionable moments in Home Alone is Kevin's use of Christmas ornaments as part of his trap plan for the wet bandits. The scene is hilarious. Marv steps barefoot on the scattered ornaments and screams in pain.
Ah! I'm gonna kill that kid!
It's classic Kevin, turning ordinary holiday decorations into instruments of chaos. Here's the catch, though. There's no way Kevin could have known Marv would take his shoes off before entering the house. Logically, predicting that step seems impossible. Yet, in true movie, magic style, everything aligns perfectly. Marv goes into the basement first, leaves his shoes on the stairs, and enters through the window barefoot. Kevin's plan works exactly as intended. It's one of those tiny plot holes that makes you chuckle when you think about it. Kevin's traps feel genius, but part of that genius is really just lucky timing. Maybe we can blame the potholes on the need for laughs, or the fact that the script was written in just a few days. Either way, this next fact is one you definitely won't see coming. How Home Alone was written in just 9 days. It's hard to imagine now, but Home Alone, one of the most beloved holiday films of all time, was written incredibly fast.
But Home Alone has been a calling card throughout the world.
John Hughes, the mastermind behind 1980s classics like The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, and 16 Candles, reportedly drafted the screenplay in just 9 days. That's right, less than 2 weeks to create the story of Kevin McAllister, the kid who outsmarts 2 bumbling burglars while his family is away. The idea for the film came from a very personal place. Hughes suffered from severe traveler's anxiety, and a family trip to Europe sparked the premise. I was going away on vacation, Hughes told Time magazine in 1990. I was making a list of everything I didn't want to forget. I thought, well, I'd better not forget my kids. Then I thought, what if I left my 10-year-old son at home? What would he do? From that simple worry, the entire concept of Home Alone was born. Hughes' ability to translate a personal fear into a story that balances humor, tension, and heart is remarkable. Within just over a week, he had crafted the first draft, laying the foundation for what would become a cultural phenomenon. The screenplay captured the imagination of both kids and adults, blending slapstick comedy with genuine moments of family warmth. Interestingly, Macaulay Culkin, who played Kevin McAllister, has admitted that he still struggles to watch the film. Perhaps the intensity of filming and the long hours at such a young age make revisiting the movie a challenging experience for him. Regardless, his performance became iconic, perfectly embodying the mischievous yet resourceful spirit that Hughes envisioned. That whirlwind writing process set the tone for how the film was made, with favors, shortcuts, and surprising behind-the-scenes decisions becoming part of Home Alone's legacy. And one of the most unexpected examples involves a familiar face you probably remember well. John Candy, made less than the pizza delivery guy in Home Alone. John Candy's cameo in Home Alone is one of those brief but unforgettable moments. Yet behind the scenes, it came with a surprising twist. He reportedly earned less than the actor playing the pizza delivery boy. Candy filmed all of his scenes in a single grueling 23-hour day. He wasn't there for the money, though. The role was a favor to John Hughes, who wrote and produced the film. As a result, Candy was paid scale, which is the minimum rate a studio can offer for work on a film. Meanwhile, Danny Warhol, credited as Dan Charles Zukowski, who played the pizza delivery boy, ended up earning more for his tiny role. It's a quirky Hollywood fact that highlights how even legends like Candy sometimes took on projects for friendship or creative reasons rather than financial gain. But it wasn't just the actors who shaped the film's emotional pull. Behind the camera, one bold creative choice helped deliver one of the movie's most heartfelt moments. How Chris Columbus added one of Home Alone's most heartfelt moments. John Hughes was famously strict about his Home Alone script, leaving little room for improvisation or changes. But director Chris Columbus found a way to sneak in one of the film's most touching moments, centered on the mysterious neighbor, Old Man Marley. While the church scene between Kevin and Marley was always in the script, Columbus added depth to their conversation. He included a heartfelt exchange where Marley talks about not being able to see his granddaughter, giving the character more emotional weight and context. Columbus also added the final shot of the film, showing Kevin witnessing Marley reunited with his granddaughter. It's a simple moment, but it resonates emotionally, providing a satisfying, warm ending to the story beyond the comedy and chaos of Kevin's traps. Reflecting on his contribution, Columbus told Business Insider, "I added the moment when Marley talked about not being able to see his granddaughter. I also added the very end of the movie when Kevin sees that Marley is reunited with his granddaughter. That is probably my proudest addition to the movie." That small change ended up giving the film its emotional payoff, showing that even a tightly controlled script could still make room for magic. But not every iconic moment came from careful planning. Some happened by pure accident. Let's check it out. How Macaulay Culkin accidentally created an iconic Home Alone moment. One of the most unforgettable scenes in Home Alone. Kevin's shocked scream after slapping on aftershave.
Other than that, I'm in good shape.
Wasn't planned to turn out the way we know it today. Director Chris Columbus had instructed Macaulay Culkin to pat the aftershave on his face, then immediately pull his hands away while screaming. But on the first take, Culkin did something different. He left his hands pressed to his cheeks while letting out the scream. Columbus recalls, "If you put something on your face that burns, most people move their hands right away. So my direction to him was when you pat your face, move your hands, and scream." And I think it was the first take he kept his hands on his cheeks. That spontaneous decision ended up creating one of the most iconic moments in holiday movie history. Columbus summed it up best. It's funny, the iconic moment from Home Alone was an accident. Sometimes, movie magic comes from mistakes, and this scene is proof that a little improvisation can create a timeless cinematic moment. But accidents weren't the only tricks behind the film's biggest laughs. Some moments were carefully crafted in ways you'd never expect. How Home Alone's BB gun scene was made with animation. One of the funniest and most memorable moments in Home Alone is when Kevin shoots Marv in the forehead with a BB gun. But here's a surprising behind-the-scenes fact. The pellet was never real. It was hand-animated. Back in 1990, CGI wasn't widely used, and the film was working with a tight budget. To make the scene work, the production team had to get creative. Director Chris Columbus revealed that they hired a man in Chicago, living in his mother's basement, to paint the BB by hand. For 6 frames, he meticulously hand-painted the pellet hitting Marv. Columbus explained, "We paid a guy living in his mother's basement in Chicago $600 to hand-paint that BB going into Marv's head. So that was an animated effect. A guy with a paintbrush in a basement for 6 frames hand-painted a BB. Considering the film's budget was $18 million, Columbus says he's pretty happy with how the scene turned out. The effect looks seamless on screen, and most viewers would never guess the BB was painted frame by frame. It's another example of how practical creativity and careful planning made Home Alone so memorable. Even small, seemingly simple moments involved clever tricks behind the scenes, turning Kevin's mischievous antics into timeless comedy. And sometimes, the biggest help didn't come from the crew at all. It came from nature. How a snowstorm saved Home Alone's iconic opening scene. Home Alone was filmed in Chicago during February, and the crew had been hoping for real snow, but didn't want to rely solely on fake flakes, which can be expensive. On the second day of shooting, a snowstorm hit just at the right moment. The team immediately seized the opportunity to film the iconic money shot, where Kevin wakes up on Christmas morning and is reunited with his family. To make the scene even more magical, the crew added potato flakes to the natural snowfall, creating the effect of snow swirling around Kevin. While it looked perfect on camera, the flakes quickly started to rot as the weather warmed, leaving a messy pile of starch behind. While these behind-the-scenes details are definitely amusing, they also reveal major oversights, subtle things most fans might miss, but that could completely change how we see this Christmas classic once noticed. Little oversights in Home Alone. Before the family heads to France, Kevin's siblings and cousins constantly tease him. While he's figuring out what to pack, one sister jokes that he's what the French call les incompetents. Linny was probably just brushing up on basic French before the trip, but since les incompetents simply means the incompetent ones, it's not as impressive as she thinks, even if it does confuse Kevin.
You're what the French call les incompetents. What?
And this playful teasing sets the stage for the chaos that will only get worse as the McAllisters prepare for their trip. That chaos escalates the night before they leave. When everyone is packing and finalizing plans, Kevin spills milk, and when Mr. McAllister cleans it up, he accidentally tosses a passport along with napkins, plus an American Airlines booklet that likely contained a plane ticket. These small oversights connect directly to why no one notices Kevin missing on the plane, showing that even minor mistakes can have major consequences. The head count before departure adds another layer of confusion. Kevin's oldest cousin accidentally counts a neighbor climbing into the van, making the number appear correct, even though Kevin is still asleep in the attic. At the same time, Mr. McAllister admits he forgot to shut the garage, confirming Kevin's mom's nagging feeling that something was left undone. These oversights compound, leaving Kevin's absence unnoticed and setting him up for his solo adventure. Even the household chores are neglected, which only adds to the sense of disorder. Despite having many plants, the McAllisters didn't arrange for anyone to water them while away, a small detail that could have made a difference for Kevin in unexpected ways once he's home alone. Once he's alone, Kevin begins exploring the house and noticing these small but telling details. He discovers a Playboy magazine in Buzz's room, though the pages are taped together to prevent Macaulay Culkin from seeing inappropriate content during filming. In the kitchen, a decorated gingerbread house sits unattended on the counter, adding to the sense of a household left to its own devices. These small discoveries illustrate both Kevin's curiosity and the gaps left behind by his family's hasty departure. Once Kevin realizes he's home alone, his imagination runs wild. He jumps on his parents' bed while eating popcorn, leaving scattered pieces that are visible later when he hides under the bed during a police knock. Even small continuity, details like the scattered popcorn reward attentive viewers and emphasize Kevin's playful energy, which mirrors the inventive ways he sets traps for the wet bandits. Those traps and tricks extend to the mannequins Kevin uses. They aren't new, they've been in the basement all along, but Kevin repurposes them near the windows to make it look like the house is full of adults. This clever use of what's already there mirrors the layered humor of the robbers' nickname, the Wet Bandits, which references both their habit of flooding houses and their plumbing van. Meanwhile, the McAllisters' attention to household abundance continues to show itself in subtle ways. Kevin's bathroom is packed with towels. At least 20 light and dark green ones are visible while he showers and styles his hair. Some are used, some stacked neatly. Overkill even for a big family. Similarly, the statue in front of the house takes multiple hits, from the airport shuttle, a police officer, and even the pizza delivery guy, showing how overlooked details accumulate consequences, just like Kevin being home alone. Even the small adult content and jokes slip in unnoticed. Despite being PG-rated, the movie sneaks in a swear when Marv loses his shoe in the dog door, and Kevin's pizzeria choice, Little Nero's, is a playful nod to Little Caesars, showing how the filmmakers layered clever references throughout. These details reflect the same careful attention to storytelling that Kevin himself will exercise as he navigates his home alone. Even Kevin's own genius has limits, which humanizes him. He still misspells ornaments on his trap map, a subtle reminder that he's only 8. The ornaments under the window don't match the tree's decorations. They're candy-shaped and colorful, made safe for stepping, while Daniel Stern, Marv, wore rubber feet for the stunts. These little inconsistencies tie back to the playful imperfections running throughout the house, showing that even a clever plan exists within a messy, lived-in world. Finally, even seemingly minor characters carry meaningful details. Mr. Marley's hand is heavily bandaged early in the film, but as he reconnects with his son and granddaughter, a scene added by director Chris Columbus, the bandage shrinks and eventually disappears. This subtle storytelling element mirrors Kevin's journey. Overlooked small details have larger consequences, and care taken over tiny moments can lead to restoration and resolution. They also set up the more obvious big-picture logic questions, like Kevin's elaborate fake party scene, when Harry and Marv spy on Kevin's house and see mannequins dancing through the windows. They believe the place is full of people. But by that point, they already know the neighborhood is empty, having broken into several houses already. If there's suddenly a massive party happening at Kevin's place, where are all the cars? A full house would mean a street packed with vehicles, but instead, it's completely empty. This final observation ties together all the small, overlooked details in the film, from minor mistakes to inventive tricks, showing that the movie's charm comes from the interplay of chaos and creativity. Of course, this assumes Harry and Marv are paying attention, but part of their charm is that they absolutely are not, leaving Kevin free to turn every oversight into a hilarious victory. Are there other oversights and behind-the-scenes details that weren't mentioned in this video? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.